Welcome to Computer Talk's Pharmacy Forward video series, and today we're speaking with Ed Vess, Director of Pharmacy Professional Affairs at RedSail Technologies, and we're excited because he wrote an article called Flip the Pharmacy, a fundamental change for community pharmacy in our May-June issue, and today Ed's going to talk a little bit about the background of this program and how it's benefiting community pharmacy and scaling up many of the things they're already doing. So Ed, thank you for joining us today, and why don't you give us a little bit of background?
Glad to be with you. Well, the flip the pharmacy, the concept is really not new. It's something that individual pharmacies have been doing for decades, really, in their own individual practices. But the idea of flip the pharmacy is to scale it up, set up a program so that other pharmacies can benefit from the experiences of those who have done it before. Sort of like a best practices. I think early on, Troy Trigstad described it as a residency program for pharmacies rather than pharmacists. And the more I see of the program, and as we go through the program, that statement just keeps coming back, and it being very true. We've got the knowledge, we just didn't always know how to best apply it and put it into effect.
How many pharmacies are in the program right now, or what's the growth goal for the?
Okay, so our goal overall is to reach over 1,000 pharmacies, and so the program is based on a grant from the Community Pharmacy Foundation, and they recruited CPSN to actually administer the program. So one of the great things about going through the Community Pharmacy Foundation is they're not restricting the information to the recipients of the grant. The information is available to all. And you know, we identified that in the article. The information is there for anybody that wants to look at it. What the grant is doing is hiring the coaches for those people who applied for the grant, and that coach is holding those pharmacies and networks accountable for what they're supposed to be doing, and they're following up.
Who are the coaches? How many coaches are there, and then how long do you work with a coach?
It's a 2-year program, so you'll go through the 6 domains, 1 per month, and then you'll take those 6 domains and you'll take it up to the first time through it was 101. The second time it's 201. So yeah, you've got your basic and then your expanded version of those domains. So you'll carry it all the way through graduate school. So the networks that were selected that got the grant, they hired coaches. The network actually hired the coach. For example, CPSN South Carolina, which I'm part of, we hired a coach, actually several coaches, but Brian Clark's our lead coach over that. So Brian's keeping up with what's going on. He is making sure that pharmacies are following the guidelines, and he's there to lend a sympathetic ear and some guidance when they need help. As we go through the domains, each domain and each change packet has a goal. And that's what we do, is we train on that goal. We've gone through monitoring blood pressure, and as we go through the domains, we don't replace this goal with the previous one, we add it on. So what we're doing is just continuing expanding the way that we take care of that patient. So,
incremental
yes.
Improvements. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, perfect. Yes. So, you know, we focused a lot on blood pressure and diabetes. Starting in June, we're going to focus on opioid issues. So the opioid crisis has identified a gap in healthcare overall, in that physicians were prescribing based on old thoughts and old processes, and the pharmacists didn't feel like they we're in a position to really question that position on that in many times. Oftentimes we did, but many times not. I think with the attention on the opioid crisis, now we're developing new ways, less confrontational ways to approach other members of the healthcare team and say, okay, this is a joint problem. Let's all work on it together. So last year in June, people were applying for the grant. Networks were applying for the grant. Well, that's coming up real soon. So anybody that's interested in having a network with the grant to hire the coach, they need to go to Flip the Pharmacy website, get the information, and go ahead and get together and create their application for this year's grant.
And what's in the application? What do they have to share?
So the application is pretty extensive because what the goal of the grant from them is to impact as many pharmacies as possible. So one of the things with the application process is describe how many pharmacies you have that are going to be participating in your network, how much money you're requesting, because the goal is, as they look at the applications, they want to say, how can I impact the most pharmacies with the available money? So an important part of the application process is to find partners, whether it be a wholesaler, another type group. In South Carolina, when we applied for our grant, we recruited the pharmacy schools to be part of it, the wholesalers, and also some health networks, some people that would not be what you would traditionally think of as supporting this. And it doesn't always have to be a financial support. It can be supporting kind. QS1 is offering support through e-care plan development and improvement, so as well as education. So it's a good program where the application, they're wanting to see, they're wanting to get the best return for their investment, and it's coming up soon. I would encourage anyone to look at it. Also, people who do not necessarily know that they want to dive into this, the information's available there at the Flip the Pharmacy website. They can look at the change packets. They can look at the goals. For me, I think this is the future of pharmacy. I see community pharmacy having two very distinct functions in the future. One being purely a dispensing model, which will pretty much be controlled by the technicians, and the other will be that patient-facing, community-available pharmacist who's going to focus on patient outcomes and improving care.
And coordinate with, be part of that larger healthcare, not be isolated, but be part of a bigger picture.
Exactly. And the great thing is the physicians and payers are both seeing benefits already. So as they become aware of what this does, they're encouraging pharmacists to do this. They want more of it. It's really exciting.
Which makes it easier for the networks to find partners like you're talking about, because there's there's proof that this works and can continue doing it.
Yeah. One of the concepts is to use technology to improve your workflow so that the pharmacist has more time to spend with the patient and on patient-focused services rather than dispensing-focused services. So MedSync, Jason Turner has been a proponent of that for years and is probably the guru on MedSync. And Jason will tell you how much time it has saved him in his pharmacy by increasing the percentage of patients that he's got on MedSync. So when we have more time to spend with the patients, it gives the pharmacist more time to make positive contributions to their healthcare plan. So one of the ways that we're doing that is with the e-care plan. The e-care plan is the documentation standard that we're using to communicate with other members of the healthcare team. And the Flip to Pharmacy program is requiring that participating pharmacies use that e-care plan, and the numbers have just grown exponentially. And it's great because now people outside of pharmacy are looking and saying, yeah, I like this information. How can I get more of it? And it's very useful for me. So it's the e-care plan has become the documentation tool that we need to communicate.
And it's something that many pharmacists may already be familiar with and just hadn't been using in a standardized way. That fits in with the idea of scaling this up.
Exactly. So what happens is when you, a year and a half, 2 years ago, when we talked to a pharmacist about using an e-care plan, the comment was always, I don't have time. And they didn't under the existing workflow that they had, because they were focused on dispensing, and the pharmacist was doing things that a pharmacist didn't necessarily need to do. There are things that technicians do better than pharmacists. I mean, they're much more effective at than us in order entry and working rejects and that type of stuff. So let's let them use their skill set, especially when it exceeds our skill in that skill set.
Right.
Let's use them there so that we can focus on what we went to school to do, and that's to take care of the patient. Yeah, ironically, we're going back to what I did when I graduated pharmacy school back in the 80s, is that, we're patient facing, and we've got people behind the counter taking care of the technical and the dispensing part. So we're actually going full circle back to the pharmacist being that most available healthcare resource in most communities. And we're meeting part of those goals using the e-care plan to communicate what we're seeing. For us, as the pharmacist, the community pharmacist, the goal is twofold. Number one, make sure our patients do better. Number two is get recognized and reimbursed for what we're doing to make that patient better. Because if the patient does better, if I can keep that diabetic out of the emergency room, I can save the payer tens of thousands of dollars a year, while they're paying me a very small fraction of that. So one of the goals is to prove to the payers that what we do saves them money by taking better care of our patient, their customer.
So anyone interested, they can read your article in our May-June issue, which will come out in early June, and they can also visit Flip the Pharmacy's website.
And if they have questions, they want to email me. That's ed.vess@redsailtechnologies.com. The email address is in the article. I will be glad to talk to them.
Okay.
And also be glad to point them in a local contact for them as well.